front to front in the classroom. So just open your video. Other students, I request, so I can see you, you can see me. Okay, okay. Yeah. So I'm really happy you are all here in this today's class. And as we know, our syllabus has some pending because I last week I was very engaged with the hostel works and because of the international event. And in this week also we have made examination for new students. So I don't know classes is going on in physically, but many students of from your course not in campus. So whatever students right now, so just we have to continue our remaining the course of our subject. So as we know, we are studying about Dr. Ambedkar and Buddhism. So many points or many ways we do understand what is Buddhism in the point of Dr. Ambedkar's thoughts or his experiences. And the very important point which we are discussing about his thoughts on the Dhamma or thoughts on the Buddhism. In previous study, previous classes, we many points we discussed about his biography, his life, and his path of Bodhisattva, and his view on the Buddha. What is who called the Buddha according Dr. Ambedkar's his view on his thought, and we start study about the his very important book which he wrote, that is Buddha and his Dhamma. Based on that, we trying to understand his view on the Dhamma or Buddhism, and he classified this book in the 8 chapters or 8 units, and the third unit where he explained or he described about the 3 very important point about the Buddhism or the Dhamma based on the categorize that the Dhamma, Adhamma and Saddhamma. He categorized the Buddhism in 3 categories or 3 level or 3 groups. That is called the Dhamma. Let me see what is called Dhamma. What is happened? So let me see what is called the Dhamma and what Dr. Ambedkar's view on the Dhamma. If you read the book of Buddha and his Dhamma, and he explained very detailed, but we don't have to go more details because he used the different dialogues between Buddha and many other disciples or Brahmin about the what Buddha says about the explanation about the Dhamma. But here just we have to focus the very important point. In that point also we can do understand what his view on particular in category of the Dhamma. He explained Dhamma, it means to maintain purity of life is the Dhamma. Very simply and very basic. Even if you see in the essence of Buddhism, Buddha says Sabba papasya karanam kushalasya upasampada sachitta pariyudapanam etam buddhana sasana. So Buddha's rules that means to not to do bad action or bad deed. Do the just good deeds and purify the mind. So this is the rule of the Buddha. This is the kingdom of the Buddha. In that point, if you see the what Dr. Ambedkar explained in his thought or his experience about the what could we say the Dhamma. That means to maintain purity of life is the Dhamma. And how to maintain the purity? And he explained, took the all references from the original text from the specially it took from the Sutta Pitaka and from the Dhammapada. Dhammapada. He many dialogues or sutta took from the Dhammapada and Sutta Pitaka to understand to what kind of the purity. We know in Buddhism three kinds of the purity of maintaining the purity of the life. That is the purification of the body, the purification of the body, and purification of the speech, and purification of the mind. This is the 10 precept. 10 precept to follow by the body, to not to kill, not to steal, not to misconduct of the body.
So दूसरा फिर से बताइए, purification of body.
First one is the purification of body. Second one is the purification of the speech.
Thank you so much.
Third one is the purification of the mind. So how Dr. Ambedkar understood the importance of 10 precept, and he first categorized what called the Dhamma according to Buddhism, and he took the all references and dialogues between what Buddha and his disciples. He took the stories and he explained to how and what kind of the purity and how to maintain it in practice in their individual's life, to understand what Buddha taught and what is the practical Buddhism. Dr. Ambedkar, if you see, is a total his personality and his vision of his life. He was not just as an author, but he's a reformer of the peoples and the society. This book is not only for as an author to write someone books and to give the information what is the Buddha, Dhamma and his Sangha, but this book is the path of the Buddha and his Dhamma. How to walk on this path very easily and very clearly. Because the Dhamma, if anyone want to understand the Dhamma, it categorizes the three Pitaka. And three Pitaka have around 34 or 35 books, or 84,000 the teachings of the Buddha. So how people can to understand what the essence of teachings of the Buddha is very difficult. Those who are very beginner and those who are not from the tradition of Buddhism. Even in the context of new Buddhist movement, he would start from 1956, and he was very much worried about their peoples, how they understand the teachings of the Buddhism, because Buddhism have the spread in many suttas or many the forms of the traditions like a Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana, many traditions. So that new person is very difficult to understand what the real teachings of the Buddha. And that's why Dr. Ambedkar, what he experienced by himself, when he first time the read of the Buddha and his Buddha's Charita, life of the Buddha, since that he experienced the importance of the precept, and he followed by himself. When he went in the America, England or Germany, in Western country abroad, he never break any kind of the precept in his life. So that essence, he understood that the power of purity of the life in his one's life, and through that what he gained, what he understood, and what he took that challenge that transformed the society, the capacity of the morality. And that's why Dr. Ambedkar taught, or he says, Buddhism is the morality, morality is the Buddhism. What he said? Morality is Buddhism, Buddhism is the morality. And he compared the morality, how is important in Buddhism or teachings of the Buddha. He compared the role of the God in other religion, the center in other religion, but in Buddhism, the center is the morality, ethics, purity of the life by the body, speech, and mind. So this is the way where he had experience, and through that experience, he helped to people to how to practice through this book. This book is a kind of the pathfinder, giving the path very easily and very clearly. You don't have to do more study in here and there. Just you go through this book, or those who really want to understand what is the essence of teachings of the Buddha. So anyone can find out from this book what is the Dhamma according the Buddha. So that is the first one. It is called to maintain purity of the Dhamma of the life. It is called the Dhamma by body, speech, and by mind. And then what he says, the second purity, the kind of the Dhamma, that is to reach the perfection in life, is the Dhamma. Reach perfection in the life, become the perfect one. To reach perfection in the life is the Dhamma. That is the 10 perfections, as we know. The Sila, Dana, Adhimoksha, Virya, Maitri, Shila. So these are all the perfections put in practice. 6 paramitas in Mahayana tradition and 10 paramitas in Theravada traditions. They become to reach the perfection through practice of the 10 paramitas in their life. So it is called the Dhamma. To practice of the 10 paramitas. Practice of the generosity, practice of the morality, practice of the adhisthana, commitment. Practice of the patience, shanti. Practice of the virya, effort. And to make the perfection, that perfection, it is means a full development of that quality. That is called the Dhamma. And next, third one is to Dhamma, he called to live in the Nibbana is the Dhamma. To give up craving is the Dhamma. So both are very close. Nibbana, it means giving up craving, non-attachment. Nibbana, it means the free from the all defilements, lobha, dvesha, moha, which is called the Nibbana. Supreme happiness, free from the all worries, defilements, klesha, ignorance, all the cause of the suffering. There is the end. There is the cease of the ignorance and the craving. It is called the Nibbana, state of the mind of the Nibbana. Nibbana is not after the death. According in other religions, moksha, they have the concept in moksha in Vedic or Brahmin culture, the moksha after the death. But here Buddha first time to show the path to moksha or nirvana or salvation before the death, to cease the craving, the cause of the the cause of the suffering. Craving is the cause of the suffering. And at the end of the suffering, it is called the Nibbana. So Nibbana is the state of the mind where there is no craving. That is called the Nibbana. No desire. Ni it means no. Bana it means vasana, desire, attachment, craving, clinging. So where there is no clinging, there is no desire, there is no attachment. So it's that state called is the Nibbana. So that he what he want to giving the path of the Buddha, where Dr. Ambedkar took from the very early teaching of the Buddha, origin teachings of the Buddha. Because Nibbana is the goal of the disciple of the Buddha, or in Buddhism. What is the Buddhism? Buddhism means attending the Nibbana. If there is no Nibbana, there is no Buddhism. And that's why what he experienced in his life, the different kind of the suffering, political, social suffering, physical suffering, and many suffering he had in his life, but he was very much happy in his life because he don't desire about the attach of the any kind of the money, position, or any worldly things. That's why he was very much happy in his state of mind, and that's why he did this kind of the work. He sacrificed his everything. He sacrificed his body. He sacrificed his family. He sacrificed his sons and daughter. He sacrificed everything because he don't had that attachment about the worldly life, and because of he become as we call the bodhisattva, because he follow the path of the perfection in his life, and he understood the importance of teachings of the Buddha, not to himself but is to everyone, those who are suffering in their own life. That suffering could be social discrimination, or suffering of the economic, of whatever kind of the suffering. All suffering could have the solution in Buddhism. That was the Dr. Ambedkar experience about the teachings of the Buddha. And in his life we can see how he had experience about the end of his craving in his life, and because of he did such kind of the work, effortless, full of the compassion, full of the wisdom. So that full of the compassion and full of the wisdom is the state of the Nibbana. That Nibbana state we can see the experience of the Buddha, or even later his disciple, or even right now those who practice is the any form of Buddhism, does not matter. But that's the way we can see what Dr. Ambedkar emphasized, or he including the to live in the Nibbana is the Dhamma. Dhamma is Nibbana. Nibbana is the Dhamma. Without experience of the free of the craving, that is not true Dhamma. If you are experience of the free from the craving, that is the experience of the Nibbana. That is called true Dhamma. That is called the Dhamma. Let me see fifth one. To believe that all component things are impermanent is the Dhamma. It's very true. What Buddha experienced in his enlightenment, things are impermanence. Sabbe sankhara anicca. Sabbe sankhara dukkha. Sabbe dhamma anatta. So what Dr. Ambedkar took this very important teachings from the Buddha or his origin text or original teachings to put in the category of the Dhamma. He was very selected, and he took that teachings from the Buddha, which are very essential and important in practice in day-to-day life, and easily can understand. And not to understand, but through these teachings, man and society can be transformed. Buddha's path is not only to transform to oneself, but same time transform the person, same time that person transform to society. That is a concern of the teachings of the Buddha. And Dr. Ambedkar emphasized same here in this book. And his total is the mission what he start from his life. Not only for the person, only individual development, but through the individual development to transform the social transformation, social change, and social change based on the impermanence. If people believe things are permanent, like which this concept came from the Vedic or Brahmin or later in Hinduism, who called the Atma is permanent, things are permanent, your deeds are permanent, you cannot change because you took the birth in that caste, lower caste, or in the that gender as a woman, so you don't have to change your attitudes and behaviors, thoughts and your actions because they believe things are permanent. Atma is permanent, soul is permanent, and because of that peoples are not ready to change their life, attitudes and behavior. And that disadvantage we can see in India or anywhere in anyone's lives and society. People are in suffering. They have created the problem in the society. And that problem we can see in the nowadays in the world. Whatever kind of the pollutions and wars or crimes or poverty, all these problems came from the same attitudes, the belief things are permanent. But someone to understand the teachings of the Buddha, how things are is not permanent but it is impermanent. So that is called the Dhamma. See, the things are impermanent. Even our body, like you can see the hard things around to us in our body, even that hard or physical things also, the nature is impermanence. So that is the essence of teachings of the Buddha. Without understanding the nature of the impermanence, we cannot purify our body, speech and mind, or even we cannot attain the Nibbana, and we cannot give up the craving if we not see the things are impermanent. So whatever experience, whatever purification, whatever perfections or experience of the Nibbana, it is depend on to the experience of the impermanence. And that we can see each and every time, like if you see your breathings to show to how things are impermanence. Our each and every cells arising and passing within the moment. Our life is momentary. So how can we see that experience, and through that experience we can see into society to how to face that problem, to understanding the nature of the changing. And that's why Dr. Ambedkar, he explained, or he give this the principle of the Buddha, huh, what it's called the Dhamma, that is means to believe or experience, the things are impermanent. Even physical, mental, social, political, whatever things, whatever the phenomena exist in the world, living or non-living things, these all things are impermanent in their nature, because of coexistence. Nothing is separate or independent or any kind of the entity eternal in this universal. So that is the way where we can see in his uh, uh, thoughts about the it is called the Dhamma. And 6.1, to believe that the karma is the instrument of the moral order is the Dhamma. We can see the karma, law of the karma in Hindu or Brahmin traditions. They misuse to control the person and the society, and to make or to become the slaver, or to make to people just for their pleasure, for their happiness. They don't have to worry happiness to others. What they explain or they maintain the law of karma in Hindu tradition. But when you see the law of the karma in Buddhism, Buddha taught the universal karma of the whole human beings, all human beings, not only for their own people. But the law of the karma in Hinduism, only the benefit of the higher caste, only the 5% people. To get the privilege them in their generation to generation, but they don't have to think about their neighbor or their other people, those who are brother and sister in their nation or their community, or even they are part of their religion. Because they maintain that order, social order based on the discrimination, based on their traditional, the rituals or the traditional books where they written in Rig Veda or Manusmriti. They just believe what they wrote in their earlier, their teachers or their founder of their religion. So, but here what Dr. Ambedkar understood the importance of the law, the instrument of the moral social order, moral order to maintain to people, to make or they practice to understand the effect of the moral in their life. When they do work by body, speech and mind, they act, there is the result, happiness and suffering. If they act badly, wrongly, the effect is suffering. If they act properly, the effect is happiness. So that is called the universal law of the karma. And that karma, instrument of the maintain the social order or moral order in the individual or in same time in the society. Dr. Ambedkar says, in the society, there are the two types of the order maintained to society or individual. The first one, the law order, but that law order only to maintain to those who criminal or those who not follow the 5 precept, and that person only 10 or 15% in the society. But what the other people maintain or their social order by the morality, and that morality based on their own essence of the experience of the suffering and experience of the as a human beings. If they harm to others, they feel it is bad, it is wrong not to do such action towards to other. Because someone do bad action for you, you feel unhappy or suffering. That means other people's also having suffering when you do bad act to others. So that is the essence of the law of the karma, what Buddha taught. Huh? To take that responsibility, good or bad. If you do good, it will get benefit to you and other. If you do bad, that's a disadvantage, is harmful to you and to others. And any one person not to make themselves to suffering in their life. That is the essence of the consciousness to everyone or maximum people. And because of that, the Dhamma is to believe, the Kamma is the instrument of the morals order, is the Dhamma. So in these 6 guidelines or 6 way, we can see the Dr. Ambedkar how to emphasize to purity of the life, reach the perfection of the life, live in the Nibbana, give up the craving, and believe on things are impermanence, and follow the law of the Kamma to maintain the moral order in the life or social life. So these are all the 6 teachings or 6 very important way we can see what is called the Dhamma. According to Dr. Ambedkar's his interpretation, or what he want to understand, to give the peoples the essence of Buddhism. Essence of Buddhism, how to understand what is the teachings of the Buddha, it is called the Dhamma. Let us see, according Dr. Ambedkar, what he say in the second category, just opposite of the Dhamma, that is called the Adhamma, which is not Dhamma. That means sabba papasya akaranam, not to follow, just reject it, just eliminate it, not to do, not to act, not to follow, not to believe. So these are the 8 kinds of the Dhamma. It's not the Dhamma, it is called the
Sir,
Adhamma.
we are not able to see. Can you make it full screen?
Just I try.
Okay, thank you.
And I will be share also this, okay? If you not,
Okay, thank you so much.
okay, just I try. It's okay? Right now is okay?
Yeah, it's full screen now.
Okay?
It's full screen?
Yes, full screen.
Okay, shall we continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. So let me see, according Dr. Ambedkar, what he could say it is not a Dhamma, or it is say not the Dhamma. The first one he categorized, believe in the supernature is not a Dhamma. Believe in the supernature. Because the time of the Buddha, even right now, people are believing something is controlled by the supernatural than the natural things. So such kind of the belief, such kind of the practices, such kind of the thoughts, if exist or some the part of our one's life, just we categorize it is not the Dhamma. It is not the Dhamma to believe the supernatural in our life or anyone's life. The second one is the belief in the Ishwar, God, is not essential part of the Dhamma. Buddha also says there is no God, there is no Brahma. Once a time, there the dialogue between the one Brahmin and Buddha. One Brahmin asked to Buddha, we believe on the Brahma, and Brahma is exist. So after that, Buddha asked the question, to that Brahmin, do you see the Brahma? He first give the answer that Brahmin, Lord, I don't see the I don't see the Brahma. Okay, if not see the Brahma, can your father have seen the Brahma? So again he says no. Okay, so could your grandfather could see the Brahma? Again he says no. Again Buddha asked the question, could some the uh, uh, Brahmin or those who knowledgeable person in your community, those who call Brahmin, could some Brahmin see the Brahma? Again he says no. And again he asked to ask before before that generation, anyone have some evidence to see the Brahma? Again he says no. So how could you believe on the Brahma? Then Buddha give the example like the Brahma, those who the person to very much love to the beautiful woman, but he didn't see that woman. Such is the kind of the experience of to believe on the Brahma. Huh? In Hinduism or in Vedic culture or even the Vedanta, when they later development of the Vedic culture, they also believe the Brahma is exists, but no one seen the Brahma, but just they love to Brahma. And Buddha give the example. So they see, they believe as a he didn't see that the person who loves one to any beautiful woman, but he didn't see how and where she is. Like this, the just believe, just the imagination, just uh, the pleasure experience about the Brahma is exist, but really that is not existence truly. What Buddha experienced in his enlightenment, there is no existence of any Ishwar, God or Brahma. Even the second next one is the same is continue the supernature, God and the Brahma. This all the concept totally the connect to each other, and this is the very much practice in the time of the Buddha. People are believe such practices, such kind of the notion of it is called the creator, huh? Or the supreme Ishvara or supreme person, in the part of the center part of the religion. Even right now also those many religions like Christianity, even Islam or many other religions, they have the center of the super nature, huh? The role of the God and Ishwar and Allah. huh? But in Buddhism, when we talking about the understanding about the what is Buddhism, in that categorize, how do we understand very clearly and easily through the category of Dr. Ambedkar, what he explained in his book, and to get understanding where we have to not to follow, not to accept such kind of the Dhamma which is not really Dhamma. And fourth one is the belief in the soul is not the Dhamma. Believe in the sacrifice is not Dhamma. Because time of the Buddha, when you read the Brahmajala Sutta, in there Buddha explained to how to peoples are thinking and what kind of their beliefs or their notions. 62 kinds of the blind faith or blind notions is the part of religion's practice in time of the Buddha. Or even right now also, whatever the suffering or problem in the Hindu society, to believe on the soul and believe on the God. Because of that, they never look the social problem of the discrimination or caste system, or thousands of people not having the education, food, and their the proper life or dignity of the humanity. Just they look, the soul is the permanent, and because of that, all the lower caste people, they took the birth because they did the past life, they did bad action, bad work, bad deed. Due to uh, his soul took the birth in this lower caste, and because of that they're having such kind of the suffering, and they don't have to bother about to help them to free from their suffering, because they believe that is the the effect of the soul. There's the it is the fruit of the soul from the last life. So this is the very dangerous belief in the soul. And even Buddha says, those who believe on the soul is impermanent. It is the permanent. Huh? Buddha says the very wrong, or is the cause of the all kind of the suffering. When you see the soul is the permanent within self or out of the self, out of the body, or in within the body, so that is the cause of the suffering. That is the cause of the all kind of the suffering. So that's why Dr. Ambedkar also bring that same practice to not to follow, to believe in the soul. Even the sacrifice, we know the time of the Buddha, thousands of thousands got buffalo and cows killed to worship to God, to get their worldly good life in their in their practice of the sacrifice, the animals. So that is also Buddha reject, Buddha not to follow such practices is a part of religion. And Dr. Ambedkar also put the same here, to not to believe sacrifice. It is called the not Dhamma. Believe on the speculations is not the Dhamma. Reading the books of the Dhamma is not Dhamma. If you are just reading the book like Ramayana, Mahabharata, even we also read any book, but if we are not following, we are not practicing, if we are not verifying what that book is saying is really useful or not in the contemporary, in the present world, we just don't have to follow any kind of the books of the Dhamma, like Bible, like Quran, like Gita. They just use that book as a holy, and never they ask the question what written in that book, and they never to analysis it, and never to change what the text written in that book. Just they follow because of the written, and they believe that books are holy. But in Buddhism, such kind of the practice is not allowed. Even in the time of the Buddha, we see the dialogues between the Koliyas. When Kolia peoples, those tribal community, they confuse the many peoples comes, and they say this is our Dhamma, you don't have to follow to others, just we are saying that is the ultimate Dhamma. And these all the community peoples confused to what kind of the Dhamma they should be follow. And once a time when Buddha visit his town, and these questions asked to Buddha, and in that time Buddha says you don't have to believe what people are saying. And in that sutta he give the all many causes, like coming the traditions, and some written in the book like a Veda or whatever, or people are just following. You don't have to follow, you have to verify it first. Whatever the traditions thinking, or even the guru saying, or people are saying, or books are saying, or culture are saying, you don't have to follow as it is. Before that following, before the practice, before to accept that the thoughts or path, you have to verify it, that is good or bad, useful or not useful. And after that, when you see it is useful to reduce your lobha dvesha moha, then only you have to follow it. If that if you are following, if you are practicing that, if you are increasing your lobha dvesha moha to in your life and to harm to others, so such practice or such things you not to follow, even that comes from the any kind of the holy books. So that's the way Dr. Ambedkar, what was even he was when he was the boy, and his father every day he asked to read the book of the Ramayana Mahabharata, and he, when he understood this book, what are the role of the Krishna and Rama, and he compared, and he understood the his personality is not really as a good human being or ethical person, and he just reject the uh, the the importance of the Krishna and Rama. Hmm? Once a time he asked this question his father, why you could give me the uh, compulsory to read this Ramayana Mahabharata, because don't like the personality of Rama and Krishna. Huh? Just you have to uh, force me to read and chant these books, huh? Because in that books not to any kind of the useful things to me and to society. So that way Dr. Ambedkar had that experiences, or even he took that the references from the teachings of the Buddha, how this dangerous if you just follow what's written in the book, it is very harmful to person and society without the analysis, without the inquiry of scientifically. The belief in the infallibility of the books of the Dhamma is not Dhamma. Just you have to believe what written in the books, it is not the real Dhamma. Believe in the supernature, what the earlier I just explained there. Believe in the supernature. This is again repeat here. So this is the way where we can see what Dr. Ambedkar to explain to about the Adhamma. Adhamma. Let we see the what is kind of the Saddhamma. Are you here?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, sir. Carefully
Okay.
listening.
Ha. Just we have to see the third category of the what is called the Saddhamma, and more detail you can read it in the book of Buddha and his Dhamma, because in that book given the more details, more dialogues between the Buddha and the disciples, where Dr. Ambedkar took the references. But here I am not giving that each and every references, but just we have to see the briefly what his idea, and how do we understand his thoughts about the Dhamma, Adhamma and Saddhamma. Let we see here what he called the Saddhamma. The first one is called the Saddhamma, that is to clean the mind of its impurity. The same what we see in the early in the category of the Dhamma. Same again he explained in the Saddhamma. Let me see the Dhamma and Saddhamma. What is the difference between the Dhamma and Saddhamma? According Dr. Ambedkar view, what I could understood, that is mean the Saddhamma and Dhamma is the a difference to what he want to focus in the Dhamma. He focus to Dhamma practice for the individual. Dhamma is the practice for the individual as a person. But when he talks about the Saddhamma, when he talks about the Saddhamma, or he categorizes the Saddhamma, that he focus or very much emphasize to social transformation or social change. So in between that we can see how his view or his thought to categorize the Buddhism not only to development of the individual, huh? But in same time the development of individual, same time he talks or he get that opportunity. The Buddhism is the path of the social transformation through the individual transformation. He uh, he explained the teachings of the Buddha in very modern middle path. hmm? Modern middle path, because people look to Buddhism just only for the personal development to attain the nibbana, but it is not true. Even in the life of the uh, his his own life of the Buddha, or after the Sangha, what he established the Sangha, that is the not the purpose of the only the person to become the enlightenment or Buddha, but in same time the purpose of the Sangha to help to peoples, welfare to peoples, to free from their suffering of the humanity. So that is the very important purpose of his establishment of the Sangha. Though in same categorize or same focus, he emphasize or he describe the what is the Dhamma. Let me see what his view and how he categorize the many aspects is the part of the Saddhamma. The first one is to clean the mind of its impurity. We know the impurity. We see the whatever kind of the impurity, it is called the because of the Adhamma. Like Adhamma, when you uh, uh, give the only one name, that is called the ignorance. Because of the ignorance, believe on the God, believe on the soul, believe on the supernature. That is it is called the ignorance about the life. And because of the ignorance, all impurity arise in the mind. And if there is no ignorance, there is no defilement, there is no lobha dvesha moha, definitely that mind could be become more clean, more pure, more enlightened. So that is the first. It is called the importance of purification from the impurity, from the negative thoughts, negative mind. That is called the Saddhamma. And Dr. Ambedkar, in this way, he more emphasized, more he focused the importance of the mind to social transformation. Huh? The role of the mind, what is the role of the mind in individual transformation, personal transformation, in the category of the Dhamma, in the category of the Saddhamma also, uh, the role of the mind is very important. And how mind if become the clean and pure, what happened next to next, let we see. The second one is to make the world a kingdom of the righteousness. This is the second aspects of the Saddhamma. Dhamma, when it's become the Saddhamma, Dhamma, when it's become a Saddhamma, when we practice to maintain or to establish the kingdom of righteousness, wholesomeness, goodness, by the practice of the ethics, morality, wisdom, compassion. So that is not only the part of just for the one's benefit, but it's the benefit of the world. So that is called the Saddhamma. Saddhamma when it's a make learning to open. Let's see. The second section he mentioned or he explained, Dhamma to be the Saddhamma must promote the pragya. Promoting the pragya. Pragya, it means the education. And in that his point he categorized the three kinds of the promoting the pragya. It means wisdom. That means the Saddhamma when it makes learning open to all, because we know the previous dharma which he was born, or in India, in Hinduism or Vedic culture, not to allow to learning or education to open to everyone. Hmm? But when Saddhamma, Dhamma is become the Saddhamma when we give the opportunity to learning to everyone. So that is to make the society very close, very engaged with the society through the Dhamma. It's become the Saddhamma. Dharma is the Saddhamma when it is a teach that the merely learning is not enough. It is may lead to pedantry. Learning is not enough. Dhamma is a Saddhamma when it is a teach that what is need is the pragya. Dhamma only makes the Dhamma, Saddhamma, when that teach what is the need is the pragya. So that way, Dr. Ambedkar, he explained the what things comes in the under category of the Saddhamma, and here also he mentioned the Dhamma to be the Saddhamma must promote the Maitri, promoting the Maitri, loving kindness. Dhamma is a Saddhamma only when it states that the merely pragya is not enough. It must be accompanied by the Sila, morality. Without the Shila, morality, pragya does not really work in the society. Dhamma is a Saddhamma only when it is that the beside pragya and Sila, what is necessary is karuna. The karuna is to compassion towards to everyone, those who are suffering very nearby us in the world, in the society. It's a practical pragya, it is called the karuna. Pragya, Dhamma is the Saddhamma only when it teaches that more than the karuna, what is necessary is Maitri, loving kindness, brotherhood. So this way, he explained or he mentioned the Saddhamma is totally social reformation, transformation. Saddhamma shows to social transformation. Here in section is 4, he mentioned the Dhamma to be Saddhamma must pull down all the social barrier. Here is the very important I think his own experience in his life about the what is struggle in to for the humanity or social reform. That is he explained here what kind of the Dhamma to become the Saddhamma. Dhamma to be Saddhamma must break down the barrier between man to man. We know that in Hinduism, the barriers between man to man, because they believe the caste by the birth, and because of that they have the barrier even to man and man to woman. But in Buddhism, when it's become the Saddhamma, when we follow or to maintain the equality between man to man and man to woman or everyone. So that is the break down barriers between man to man. Dhamma to Saddhamma must teach that worth and not to birth is measure of the man. And this is the very important message of the Buddha after the enlightenment, when he was taking the experience after enlightenment under the different trees in the same place nearby the Bodhi Ruksha in Buddha Gaya. And I think the 4th week of where he was sitting in the Ajapala Ruksha, and after the last day of that week, one Brahmin comes and he dialogues between the Buddha with the Buddha, and he says to Buddha, I am Brahmin, and because I am Brahmin, I am great than all other caste. And in that, the answer given by the Buddha No, Brahmin, what you are saying, it is not true. No one can become the great or uh, higher than other because of the birth. It is not true what you are saying. Hmm? Anyone can become higher and lower in their position, not by the birth, but is by the worth, by the deeds. So that's the Buddha's first message or first dialogues between that Brahmin to social reform or social change. And same here, Dr. Ambedkar being here to what kind of the become the Saddhamma, to teach the worth, not to birth, is the measure of the man or any person. So third is the Dhamma is to Saddhamma must be promote equality between man to man. Again here, same the experience of the was first earlier, to break down barrier between man to man, that means to promote the equality between man to man. So these are the his experiences, or he categorized what he uh, what he experienced in his life, first one, and what he studied from Buddhism around his 21 years he spent the teachings of Buddhism or all other religions. Himself he says, when I declare in 1935 in October, I was born in Buddhism, in Hinduism it is not in my hand, but I will be not die in Hinduism. And since that he took the 21 year when he become Buddhist or he embraced Buddhism. And during that his 21 years he did many work for the constitutions and many other social and political rights to their peoples, to make the India democratic. But in same time he did study. We know his personal collection 50,000 books in personal his library and almost 20,000 books on Buddhism. And he took very deep study, not like a ordinary author. He was scholar, and more than the scholar, he was the practitioner scholar. He was not just scholar. He practiced and he experienced in his total life. What is the real importance of Buddhism in the context of the person, in the context of the social reform? Both way. He bring the together to how to build up the personality, how to become the individual, and same time that individual to responsibility, or each individual have responsibility to maintain the social order based on the equality. We not to ignore to any kind of the problem which is the suffering by the peoples in the society. That is not real Saddhamma. It is not true the Dhamma if you not worry, if you not to bother about the social problem. Social suffering is the responsibility of the individual, those who practice of the Dhamma, who is the disciple of the Dhamma. And that's the purpose of Buddha, to establish the Sangha, to welfare to society. So duty of the Buddhist Sangha or Buddhist disciple to maintain the social order based on the morality, based on the compassion, based on the pragya, based on the maitri. So that is called the Saddhamma. When you practice the Dhamma, it has become the Saddhamma. So I think we have this to finish in this topic.